see you there. Welcome to Miss Lanigan's 10 tips on how to become a better writer. Using these 10 tips, you can go from this to this. Alright. Tip number 1, write. It may sound easy, but writing all the time is really what's going to make you a better writer. Keep a notebook and pen handy, or write on your laptop if that works for you better. Either way, you should always be writing, always be practicing and experimenting with your craft. The only way you're going to be a better writer is if you write. I like to keep a notebook and pen handy for whenever ideas strike me. Ooh, that's a good one. I'm writing this all down. Tip number 2, read and listen to other writers. The best way besides writing that you're going to improve your writing is by reading and listening to the way good writing sounds. There are plenty of resources available if you like to read. There are also plenty of resources online that offer free reading of classical texts, such as Project Gutenberg. You can listen to the way good writing sounds by listening to programs such as NPR or watching videos on TED, which feature people who are really good speakers. The only way you're going to be better at writing is if you listen to the pros. That's a little English teacher pun for you. Step number 3, know your audience and purpose. Now, sometimes in prompts, the audience and purpose are written out for you. Let's say the prompt is, write a letter to your local official about a problem you see in the city. Now that's easy because you already have your purpose, what you want changed in the city, and your audience, a local city official. If you're writing to your friend, you're obviously going to be writing differently than if you were writing to a local city official or a school administrator. So it's important to know your audience because it's going to change the tone and style of the way you're writing. Before you sit down and write, it's important to know your purpose. Now, if you're writing for yourself, maybe you're just writing creatively, or you're writing about a memory you have, then maybe knowing the purpose is just for your own enjoyment, and that's okay. You can write for your own enjoyment. It is possible. But if you're writing for, let's go back to this example of the city official, you're going to want to know your purpose, and your purpose is to talk about an issue that you want to change. Number 4, collect words. Now this may sound like something kind of nerdy, like collecting stamps or something like that. Not like any of us do that. But you're going to want to collect words for your own writing. I actually started doing this in a creative writing class in college, and it has so far helped me not only learn new and interesting words, but also diversifies my writing. So you can collect words that are silly, that sound interesting to you, that maybe you just hear in conversation a lot and you don't exactly know what they mean. Anything that tickles your fancy, feel free to keep a collection of it. Tip number 5. Use prompts to diversify your writing. Now, you don't always get to choose what you can write about, but if you're writing for yourself, you might want to try to use prompts to spark some creativity in your writing. Now, it's easy to find prompts online. I've also provided some in your notes. Prompts can spark creativity in you. Maybe you can start writing about things you never thought about before. You can write about old memories or create a new story that you may not have written had you not been prompted to do so. Tip number 6. I already forgot what it was. Tip number 6, learn about active and passive voice. Learning the difference between active and passive voice and learning not to use passive voice is what can give your piece the kind of spunk and oomph that it's been looking for. Now, if you use passive voice in your writing, you're going to put people to sleep. It's a scientific fact. Passive voice puts people to sleep. I read it in a study once. Active voice is going to give your piece a little bit of pizzazz, and it's going to give it more action, and that's exactly what we need when we're reading, a lot more action. Yes. Tip number 7 is experiment with your writing. Yes, we know doing experiments, don't we? In the school setting, we're not always given the chance to experiment with our writing. A lot of times we're told you have to write a 5-paragraph essay or critical lens essay, you have to use these resources, you have to write a research paper, blah, 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 blah. But if you want to become a really good writer inside and outside of school, the best way to do it is experiment. And you can experiment with different forms of writing, different styles, different voices, different characters. I know this sounds crazy coming from a teacher, but real writers don't have to write 5-paragraph essays. They can write in any kind of style they want, so experiment with different styles. I mean, you never know what's going to pop up in your writing if you just let yourself write without consequence. Tip number 8. This is going to sound crazy, but sometimes the best writing comes when we stay away from a project. Maybe you've had a little rocky relationship and you need to spend some time apart and get some distance from the writing so you can more clearly see it. A lot of writers do this. They write a first draft and then they put the draft away and get some distance from it so they can come back to it with fresh eyes and with new ideas, and sometimes that's the difference it makes. Tip number 9, get feedback. Now, sometimes in school, all your teacher does is give you an assignment, you have to write it, and then you hand it in for a grade, and you never know if you can improve upon something until it's already been graded. So what I like to do is make sure that I get feedback for my writing while I'm writing it, in the process of writing, because that is when I can still make changes to it, I can still manipulate it, and I don't have to have a finished product in order to evaluate my writing. So a good idea is to get feedback from a reliable peer, or maybe your teacher. If your teacher wants to read your writing, have your mom or dad read it. Read it to your dog for a bedtime story. Read it to your boyfriend or your girlfriend, anybody. Read it to your grandparents, to your mailman. Read it to your mirror. Read it to your taxidermist. Read it to your cows. Read it to your donkeys. Read it to the guy at Tim Hortons that takes your order. Read it to your uncles. Read it to your aunts. Read it to ants. Read it to anybody who can give you reliable feedback. And that's going to help your writing by giving it to someone else. Even if they don't understand the subject matter, they can at least tell you how your writing sounds. Last but not least, tip number 10 is rewrite focusing on content over mechanics. Now, traditionally in schools, when a teacher tells you to rewrite a paper, she's probably circled, your contractions and your misuse of a dangling modifier, something like that. But I'm telling you now that it's more important to get your ideas across than mechanics. If your ideas don't make sense, then it doesn't matter if you wrote it in perfect grammatical form. When you're asking for feedback, make sure that you ask the person, did my ideas come across clearly? Am I making sense? Did you get what I'm saying? Because that is going to be the most important thing that you're going to try to get across to your audience. Mechanics, spelling, anything like that, it's usually only one section on the rubric, and everything else has to do with content. So you're going to want to focus on content more than mechanics. I don't want to make it sound like grammar isn't important. It is, but you're going to want to make sure, more importantly, that your ideas are clear and concise and that you're making sense in your paper. Alright. That concludes Miss Lanigan's 10 tips on how to become a better writer. Be sure to refer to your notes, as they have plenty of resources in which you can become a better writer. The reason why my dog is in this video is because she cannot stand not having attention. And she won't stop bothering me because I'm videotaping instead of paying attention to her. So she's gonna be in the video. Thank you. Thank you. That's all for now, folks. We'll see you later. Bye, everybody.